Hello! Welcome to Sprint Training 101, part B of the assignment. Some of you may be wondering, oh, did I forget to do an assignment? And no, I just had to do the assignment because, yeah. Without further ado, let's begin. Sprinting can be divided into phases, beginning with the acceleration phase and then transitioning into the maximum velocity phase. Essentially, I'm going to show you a handful of drills that can be used to improve these two phases. Now, some of you may be wondering, what credentials do I have? Well, I did run track in high school, but that was a while ago. Evidently. The goal of this video is to show that these drills are both teachable and learnable by somebody who is not an expert. Now, if you are a competitive sprinter, I would advise you to cut your losses and end the video here. This is meant to be an instructional video for non-track athletes to improve their sprinting, not a technical video for elite sprinters. However, I still do think this will be an effective video in helping you teach simple sprinting drills. What we're always looking for in the maximum velocity phase is a tall posture while looking straight ahead, arms moving from the cheek to the cheek, your ankle remaining dorsiflexed. Specifically, during A's, we're bringing the knees up in order to emphasize a long stride length. Before I continue, I think it's important to note that running velocity is a product of stride length and stride frequency. So when I say I'm trying to increase one of those, it's with the goal of increasing running speed. The B march is similar to the A march, except at the top you want to release your hamstring and extend your leg, but ensure to snap it back to quicken stride turnover. A helpful cue for this part is to imagine pawing at the track. The A skip is essentially an A march, except, as you can see, with a little bit of hop in your step. When performing the A skip, you want to ensure the athletes aren't flexing their trunk while driving their knee upward, as seen on the left. Although this creates a relative flexion of the hip flexors, it comes at the expense of the tall posture. If this continues to occur, get the athletes to stretch out their hip flexors. Once again, the B skip is similar to the B march, except with a bit of hop in your step. I find it helps if I think to be bouncy. Just like the A skip, you must make sure the trunk remains upright. The most common mistake of a B skip is not snapping the leg back. The greater angle between the body and the leg creates a braking force. When cueing the athlete to paw at the track, you must make sure that their foot makes contact close to or under their body. Driving my knee up over and over made my hip flexors really tight, so I'd recommend some hip flexor stretches as needed. This unilateral drill is different from the A skip because it emphasizes the recovery of the leg. You want to make sure that the athlete steps over their knee, as this will lead to a quicker turnover and a greater stride frequency. This drill will challenge the athletes to recover their leg quickly while still getting their knee up high. It forces them to shorten the amortization phase and decreases ground contact time. This is a good thing. I'm showing you the first still so that you can understand what to look for when cueing step over your knee. Without getting too technical, this increases stride frequency. You want to make sure that the athletes actively try to point their toes to the sky, as shown on the right, because this allows them to stretch their posterior chain prior to contact with the ground, maximizing elastic contraction. In ankling, you want your athletes to step over their ankles. Tell them that the ground is hot and that they don't want to touch it for too long. Next is cycling, in which the athletes should try to step over their knees. Make sure their foot strikes under their hips. Finally, we can have them transition from ankling to cycling within one drill. Bounding is slightly less centered around precise technique and more of a method to overload your muscles. The goal of this drill should be to drive the front knee up and get as much hang time as possible. In single-legged bounding, some of the more technical aspects are brought back, without losing the explosive plyometric aspect of the exercise. It forces athletes to bring their leg through the entire cycle very quickly, minimizing the detrimental ground contact time. Try to get your athletes to drive up their knee on every bound. This gets harder to do as you start to get tired. I'm not sure if I'm out of shape or if this exercise is just exhausting, but I really felt like my hip flexors were giving up on me near the end. Don't let your bounding leg just trail. Make sure you're actually driving your knee up with every bound. I was having a hard time with the heat, and I was disappointed to find out that so was my phone. After going back to look at all the recordings, I had realized that half of them were missing, probably because it was 37 degrees and my phone was directly in the sun. Anyway, here I am the following day setting up my makeshift hurdles for some more sprinting drills. The goal of the next drill is to get the athletes to achieve the desired stride length and then keep it up for a little bit. Set the first two hurdles 2 feet apart, the next one 3 feet apart, and so on until you get to about 6 feet apart. This isn't shown, but that should be kept up to encourage the athletes to keep this form while they are running. This is essentially putting everything together and focusing solely on the maximum velocity phase. You are trying to get the athlete to run 20 or 30 meters in under a specific time. However, you don't start timing until they are already in their maximum velocity phase, removing acceleration from the equation. A lot of acceleration drills have a similar goal in mind. We want to see the athlete keeping their body aligned, however, leaning over to propel themselves forward. In wall sprints, as much as we want to emphasize driving the leg into the ground to create a forward propulsion, we also want to make sure the athlete is changing legs quickly. We want shorter and quicker strides during acceleration. Like the photo on the right, we want to keep our body aligned so that we can minimize lost energy while driving ourselves forward during acceleration. Ground starts are more practical because they involve actual running. You want to cue the athlete to be falling forward because if you just tell them to lean forward, they might start to break at their hip. Really thinking about driving myself forward helped me maintain the correct body posture and a positive shin angle. You don't want the athlete to pop up tall until they're in their maximum velocity phase. Furthermore, acceleration is all about being as quick as possible. Remind athletes that slowly rearranging footing before taking off is not something they would do in-game. The falling start helps athletes understand the falling forward cue by feeling the correct body angle. Obviously, the extreme is not what we're looking for here. Make sure the athletes don't actually fall forward. For the jump back start, when you say go, the athlete will jump backward into the correct footing, putting themselves in the forward lean position, and then accelerate forward. In the partner release, have a partner hold the athlete back while they perform a wall sprint. When the partner jumps out of the way, then the athlete will continue the wall sprint into an actual acceleration. No matter how nicely I asked, the net wouldn't jump out of the way, so I had to, although this is not optimal. In the stills, I showed the correct body alignment as well as the positive shin ankle seen here in the yellow. This final drill can be done as a fun game at the end. The coach will drop 2 balls, and upon release from their hands, 2 athletes will begin to accelerate and try to catch them before the second bounce. Keep backing up to see which athlete has the best acceleration. Here are a final few points to help you coach these drills. A lot of the acceleration stuff is actually quite natural, so make sure you don't overwhelm your athlete with cues. I found watching videos far more helpful than reading how to do these drills, so I'm sure that incorporating demonstrations would really help the athletes. Sometimes I think that I'm doing everything right until I watched a video of myself and realized that that is definitely not the case. If an athlete is having a really hard time, and of course if it's possible, film the movement and then show it to them while explaining just one thing that you want to change. And finally, everybody has their own style, within reason of course. Don't be incredibly nitpicky about form. Critics say that Andre De Grasse has poor form with his arms while sprinting, but he medaled in 3 sprinting events in Rio with this poor form. Use your common sense to determine if the technique disparities are really worth addressing. I hope this video is able to serve as an effective coaching tool. Thank you very much for watching.